Yeah. How's it, guys? Welcome to another episode of New Level Interviews. Today we have none other than Wallaby legend Will Genia. Really excited to have you on this episode, man. It's really an honor. I mean, what you've done in the sport is really amazing, and I mean, just the way that you break lines and things like that, and just to go a little bit deeper, just in not just breaking the lines, but what's ahead for Will Genia after the life of rugby as well. But before we get started, if you want to introduce yourself a bit, who is Will? Where does he come from, and what does he do?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. I really enjoy the conversations you've been having, so to be able to have this one with you is pretty cool. Yeah, mate. I'm originally born in Papua New Guinea. Moved to Australia when I was 12 for high school, and then sort of called Australia home ever since. Was fortunate enough to play for the Queensland Reds for 10 years. Played for the Wallabies for ten years. Um, Played in Paris for a couple of years, and I've been in Japan now for the last six. So. Still playing, probably right at the back end of my footy career. So this conversation is probably quite relevant. But yeah, man, that's sort of my story in a brief sort of nutshell. And yeah, keen to have this chat, mate.
I must say, with the box jumps you're doing, I don't think your rugby career is finished so soon. You still got a lot of energy in there. But on that, well, you've really had a phenomenal career playing for the Reds, playing for the Wallabies, especially as well. What would you say was one of the greatest moments that really stood out for you? I mean, in this past 10 years, if there was that one moment that just pops up that you can think of that was a real highlight for you.
Mate, to tell you the truth, the one like it's a hard question to answer, particularly when you say if you ask me the middle of my career, it'll probably come up. The immediate answer would be one specific game, one moment in a game. But being towards the back end of my career, I'd probably like the thing that I would say I'm most proud of in terms of the actual playing would probably be playing 100 tests. To me, I think that represents your commitment to excellence, your dedication to your craft, and the ability to continue to want to get better. And
Yeah.
that's something that's always been really important to me. But the thing that I'm most proud of when I look back on my rugby career, I've been playing since 2006, would have to be the fact that um, I stayed true to the expectations that I set of myself right from the beginning. I was always quite hard on myself in terms of I wanted to be the best that I could possibly be, and for me that meant doing extras, putting in the extra work, and no one was watching, doing extra passing, extra running, extra fitness, extra strength, all that type of stuff. And even when you sort of make it, you make the Wallabies, you play for 1 year, 2 years, you become a captain or a vice captain, you sort of gain that seniority. For me, I never lost sight of what my expectations of myself were, and I always held myself accountable to them. So I would say that's definitely the thing that I'm most proud of when I look back on my footy career.
Yeah, no, that's great. And when you look at your career as well, I can remember the first game that you started was actually against the All Blacks in the 21 jumper. And
Yeah,
to think about your first test and going to over 100 caps, how was each game? Were there sometimes where you actually kind of got into it where you were fully prepared, or were there actually times where you felt overwhelming, even though you had the experience, you had the knowledge, and you grew together as a team? Because I mean, there were phases
yeah.
where Australia was smashing it, then they were a little bit down. But overall, I mean, you guys were still a great setup. Like, doesn't matter it was like if there's a difficult situation or task ahead, there's just somehow that you guys found this inner belief to do the impossible.
Yeah, mate. For like again, I could probably only speak on my experience. Like for me, a lot of say inner belief and confidence for me comes from preparation. I think that the biggest thing I've found is if you just focus on doing everything that you can to prepare as best as you possibly can, that day, the game day, eventually just becomes an expression of all that hard work. And for me, early on, like say when I first started playing for Australia, like it was more a case of you're so excited. There's this level of exuberance and youthful energy where you just love it. You get out there, you train hard, you prepare well, you give as much as you can when you play. When you get to sort of that middle period of when you play for a long period of time, that's when it gets quite difficult, and that's when you sort of really tested as far as am I gonna maintain this commitment to these expectations around how I prepare so that I can be the best that I can be for the team. And then sort of towards the back end of my career, those sort of things just became habit. It became, well, it's just what I do. So I'm going to focus on just preparing as well as I can. And then the preparation, becoming then Saturday just becoming the expression of all that hard work and all that preparation. But yeah, mate, self belief, like that self belief to me is just preparation. I'm really big on that. Self belief is for me definitely preparation. Like I remember you hear Michael Jordan say it all the time. Like you, the game when he would play, everything that he did everything that he did on the game, he'd already done in training. So it was more a case of, well, I'm going to just shoot my shot. If I miss, if I miss, I miss. If I make it, I make it. I'm sort of paraphrasing it a bit, but I'll live with it because I know I've done the work. And that was sort of my understanding and my way of thinking towards, believing in myself and having confidence when we would, turn up to play on a Saturday.
Yeah. And I think definitely when you talk about that as well, like visualization and actually seeing the things in your mind actually happening, and the training and the practices and everything definitely does help a lot. And I think especially playing as a scrum half at a world stage, World Cups and those kind of things, there's so many things happening. But something that's amazing is you have someone that calls the shots, and it's like everyone knows exactly where they need to align, and you can just basically having the trust in players next to you to run those lines, and you can basically just pass the ball and do your job. But when we actually come to that and pull that a bit back into life, were there anyone that you looked up to within the team or out the team that actually kind of mentored you? Because there's a lot of players, I think, it's great getting into the hype and all of that, but some players just lose their mind and they actually derail a bit and go out partying,
Yeah.
using things they're not supposed to use. But was there someone that played a pivotal role in your life to help you to stay focused?
Mate, I had a guy called Chris Lane, who was my first 15 coach when I was at Brisbane Boys College, when I went to school, where I went to school. And he, like, I can honestly say I would never have made it, but also never have developed the mentality and the mindset I have towards life and towards rugby now if it wasn't for him, because he was the very first person who ever believed in me. Like I wasn't a schoolboy sensation coming out of high school. I was like I could play. I was a good player. And I remember he said to me one time, he's like, mate, you could do this for a living. And I laughed at him. I said, whatever, mate. Like I'm just playing, having fun. He said, no, I really think you can. Like, give me your first year out of school. Come play a club at my club, because he was a Colts coach as well, under 19s coach. And I said, you know what, I'll just give it a go. So I spoke to my parents and said, look, my first year out of school, like I just want to give this a go and see if it can work. And then so I spent the first year out playing under 19s after school, just under his guidance. Like when he would tell me, okay, come down here we would be doing extra passing on Christmas, we'd be extra passing on public holidays, we'd be extra passing all day, every day. The lights at the field would turn off and we'd turn the car lights on and we'd doing extra passing, all that type of stuff. Until eventually at the end of 2006, I ended up getting a deal at the Reds. Fast forward a couple of years, I was then playing for the Wallabies in 2009. But throughout all that period, even when I first started at the Reds and when I first started at the Wallabies, he would always come down and we would still do all the extras that we would normally do. And I remember one thing he always said to me, which has stuck to me to this day, is only worry about the things that you can control.
Yeah.
And like it sounds really simple, and the simplicity of it probably makes it sound a bit silly, but like it really stuck with me. And so for my entire career, that's always been something that I've lived by, where there's a lot of things that are going to happen on the footy field because it's a game of chaos. What can you control in this moment, here and now? Likewise, when you're training in preparation, likewise in your life outside of footy, like what can you control? What's in your control? What's in your control now that you can focus on that will allow you to be the best that you can be? And so he was pivotal for all the success and the longevity I've been able to have. And I'll forever be grateful to him, man. He's a great man.
And that's quite a powerful thing. If you can actually kind of master your mind to control just the moment that you have right now. And I found with majority of rugby players, we're actually quite good with suppressing feelings and pushing things aside. And when it's go time, you'll deal with things at some other point in life. But something that I've also noticed is that sometimes you kind of push things aside and then you have undealt issues and you forget about them. And then later in life, they pop up in like, where on earth did this thing, where on earth did this thing come from? And how do you kind of deal with setbacks and those kind of things at the end of the day is very important. How would you say do you deal with something that is trying to attack your character and is not
Yeah,
necessarily something that you've done wrong, but you need to push it aside, but there's still kind of a way that you need to deal with it?
yeah. I would say the first thing for me that I've learned in order to be able to deal with situations like is just to be honest with yourself.
Mhm.
I think I think we as people, whether it's rugby players or people in general, we can sort of bullshit ourselves a bit and lie to ourselves about whatever the problem might be and blame other people. Whereas I think if you can be really honest with yourself around, um, and be accountable and responsible for the part that you play and whatever issues that might be happening, I think that's the first step towards overcoming certain challenges and overcoming certain things, but also then building resilience towards those types of things. Now, whether for me, like like early on in my career, when you get dropped or you have relationship issues or you have issues, with friends or family, whatever it is, the thing that I've realized that's most important is you got to be honest with yourself and understand, okay, well, what part have I played in this and what can I then do to be able to learn from this and grow from this and be better from it?
Yeah.
And from a rugby perspective, like the clearest example is, yeah, you might get dropped, which we've all been dropped. Initially, like I said, being a younger player, you sulk and you whinge and you think, oh, the coach just doesn't like me, or man, I've been playing well, I don't know what he's looking at. But then as I've gotten older, you start to realize, okay, well, there's a reason. There's a reason he's not picked me, or I'm on the bench, or I'm not in the team. Then you start to be a bit more constructive about it. It might be going and speaking to the coach and saying, what can I do to get better? What do you need from me? Because I do want to be back in the starting team, or I do want to be back in the team. And then just being and making a plan around those sorts of things.
Yeah. And I think I must say, when I think about being benched, I think South Africa has kind of mastered a thing. No one wants to start, everyone wants to join the bomb squad. Everybody coming
Yeah,
from the bench. And I think it's all about perspective. And when you're real with yourself, like you say, and you can still know that there is a part that you can play in the bigger picture of things. Because at the end of the day, if you're going to make it just about yourself, you're not going to come that far. I mean, it's the entire squad, and if you represent your country, it's for the entire country. So it's something bigger that you can actually imagine. And also with playing rugby and still playing now currently, and having kind of the end in sight, is that something that you've always kind of been preparing for since the day that you started playing rugby? Did you note it, or did you know that there's going to come a point where you're going to hang your boots up and you're going to have to have a plan B? Because in South Africa, we don't believe in plan Bs. We just say we're going to become a rugby player.
yeah.
So when you hang up your boots, it kind of hits you in the face like, oh shit, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, man. It's funny. Like when you first start, you have all these conversations with past players that tell you to prepare. You're like an 18, 19-year-old kid, prepare. It's not going to last forever. And you think to yourself, it is going to last forever. I'm only 18. But then you get to 36, which is my age now. And yeah, you realize it isn't going to last forever. The paychecks are going to stop coming in. You're going to stop paying the same amount of money. You're not going to be able to travel the world and live here and there, blah, blah, blah. It can be quite a daunting thing and quite a confronting thing for sure. And I know a lot of people that have struggled with it. I think for me, like the best realization that I've come to that has really helped me in terms of understanding I'm going to be okay. Well, there's two. Is one that I've learned so many skills along the way in my rugby career that are very transferable to everyday life, whether I work in an office or I work as a coach or whatever it might be. Things like a resilience, a positive attitude, a great work ethic. I know that there's a lot of things and discipline that I can transfer into other things, that whatever it is I do. That's one thing. But I think probably the more important one is, like, I don't really care to impress other people with what I do after, if that makes sense. Because I think, like, as a rugby player, like when people ask you, what are you going to do when you finish? I think sometimes it can be quite a loaded question, because people will say, well, you've been so successful at what you've been doing already. What are you going to do? You better live up to the reputation, or you live up to the status that you've acquired when you've been playing rugby. And I think that can play on a lot of people's minds and sort of send them on a downward spiral of thinking, well, I've got to live up to this, this reputation or this status that I've sort of acquired from playing footy. Whereas for me, I really don't care what it is that I do, as long as I'm happy. I could be sitting on a lawnmower cutting grass somewhere, or I could be, working in a cafe, or like working in a shop somewhere. But if it makes me happy, I'm I'm going to be okay. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
for sure.
I don't have like the stress of having to live up to the expectations of other people. If I'm doing what I'm doing and I find peace and contentment and happiness within it, then I really don't care what it is.
And I think a lot of rugby players fall, or sports people in general, or actually anyone in the limelight fall into that trap because when that ends, they still kind of want to maintain that lifestyle of impressing people, and
Yeah,
you still want to have that self-worth, but then you actually realize your worth is being in your career and not actually in yourself as an individual. So it's actually awesome how you say you'll be content cutting grass, mowing the lawn, and something like that. And that's chill. I mean, shout out to Joe van Niekerk. I can remember when his career finished, people thought he lost his marbles. I mean, going from a rugby player
yeah,
to this peaceful kind of guy. And in South Africa, there was so much critique about him. And I just thought to myself, but it's so sad because at one moment you guys were cheering this guy on, and now all of a sudden you want to boo him. But I really honor him for sticking to his guns and just being himself and don't care what people think. And I think that's how, especially coming out of it, is to have that kind of mindset of not really caring what people think. And if you had to give yourself, like your younger 18 self, some advice that you have right now, what is something that you would, if there were maybe one or two changes that you could have done back then?
that's a great question. Um, that's a great question. I would say be more open to accepting help from people.
Mhm. Yeah, that's powerful.
I, I, I I would say that because I think initially, like when I first started, I'd say a lot of professional footy players would be the same. It's like when you first start, you're so just tunnel vision and focused and driven. You want to be the best that you can be, that you seem to think that you know everything and you know what's best. Like you can still be coachable and you'll still listen to your coaches. Like when I had my mentor, Chris Lane, I'd listen to everything that he said. But then you get to a point where you then start to think you know everything. And you close yourself off from so much that people can do to help you, whether it's on the field, off the field, with your preparation in your life. So I would definitely say, yeah, be more open to people helping and being there for you.
Yeah, and I think that's really, I think men in general as well struggle to talk. I mean, when we carry these burdens and things, it's like I just have to do it by myself. I have to push through. Were there some times in your career, and I just want to actually, like, when you look at a guy like Michael Hooper, when he went through something, he just pushed everything aside, and he said he needed to focus on himself a bit. And that's an awesome thing. I mean, not many guys would actually do something like that, to look at myself as more important than anything else at that point. Were there some times where you felt you wanted to, like, kind of just break away and just be by yourself, maybe dealt with some depression or something like that? And how did you overcome it?
Mate, I had issues with in relationship issues like around 2017, 2018. That was tough, but I was fortunate that I love rugby, right? Like I love everything about the game. It brings me so much joy. Like I love everything about it. I love the camaraderie that you get from with your teammates, working hard towards a common goal, the competitive nature of the game. So when I've gone through tough times and using that as an example, I just found so much peace training and playing. It brought me joy to the point where it allowed me to forget about things and allowed me to focus on what I was doing and be more present. So the game, like I owe so much to the game because of what it's provided me and the lessons and the values that it's taught me. But I also owe a lot to the game because it was there for me like throughout tough times, man. Like to be able to provide me something that I loved and cared for that was an escape, but also was somewhere where I just felt such peace and helped me move through things.
Oh, definitely. And also, I had an interview with Ryan Kinkowski, I think it was about 2 years ago. And he actually spoke about, like, especially after rugby, where a lot of us, it's like one is living there, the other one is doing, and no one is checking up on each other again. But I think something that we can maybe do is, instead of life goes on, life carries on, and we have to move on. But I think wherever we go, we as rugby players actually have such a great gift of getting people together. I mean, whether
Mm.
it being as an individual or something like that. So I think we should maybe, instead of looking at it as a negative thing, that we're not going to spend time with our old teammates and those kind of things. We can make new friends, get to know new people, but we can let them experience those change room moments in a workplace or work environment or in family and things like that. Because I don't know about in Japan or something like that, but in a lot of other countries where you drive around, or even here in South Africa, you can sometimes see someone's head is just dipping down. I mean, people are really going through stuff. It doesn't take a rocket science to notice someone is actually dealing with something in their lives. And I think we can really be like a light to people around us in making a change and a difference with that. Is there anything where you, as a rugby player, are like part of, where you, like, whether it be a charity or something that you like spending time with, or making some difference in there?
So I go back to Papua New Guinea a fair bit, and so when I go back, I help out with the local rugby teams and local rugby competition. Just going down to watch training, watch games, sort of give whatever advice I can and help in any way that I can. Run around with the boys, like I go back and play every now and then. But Matt, I would say, like, I think what you said was really beautiful. I think it's a really important point. Like, as rugby players, like, the thing that I'll miss the most is the level of camaraderie that being a part of a team provides. Like, the ability to be there for your teammates, to help them through tough times, whether it's a tough training session or whether it's, you might notice that they're struggling a bit in their life, just to ask them how they're going. Naturally, you do that because you're just around each other every single day. But yeah, I think it's a certain light that you could probably bring to your life outside of rugby once you finish, because like you said, we've experienced something that everyday people won't have experienced, that level of team, that level of togetherness. And you can bring people together in that sense to try and help them experience that same level of camaraderie and the ability to be there for each other. Because the thing that I enjoy the most now with at this end of my career is I love helping the younger boys.
Yeah.
Like, I love being there, catching passes for them, like catching kicks for them. I like helping them with their understanding of the game, whatever they might need, or just being someone there to, like, pump them up. You know what I mean? Tell them how good they're going, what they're doing, where they need to improve on. And that's something that brings me a lot of satisfaction and joy. And it's something that, for me, when I finish playing footy, I would like to think that I'll bring that into whatever it is that I do next. That ability to want to be able to bring light to wherever I am, help people, be there as someone who can, I wouldn't say catch passes. Maybe if I'm coaching, yeah, but, like, I don't know what that might look like in a different work environment. But yeah, just provide that sense of team and understanding of how to build a good culture and things like that.
Awesome. Well, and yeah, basically coming to the end of the interview, and you're still playing Sunday in Japan. Do you have anything planned coming out to the end of your career? Hopefully, you're still going to push through a bit. I saw a little bit of Buckop and Larkin playing some footy together in Australia.
Yeah,
It was awesome to see that. So hopefully, you still stay fit, and maybe you can join them when they're in their 50s also. So
yeah, mate.
they can be catching balls for you.
Yeah, 100%. No, mate, I still love what I do. Like, I'd like to play for another 2, maximum maybe 3 years. Like, the body still feels good. I still love the game. I still love having to get up and go do hard training sessions and play tough games. And I really still enjoy the grind, and I enjoy the challenge of still wanting to get better. So I'd like to keep playing for maybe another couple of years. And then when I finish, I'd love to coach. I'd love to be able to coach because, again, it sort of fits in with the way that I want to live my life, with the ability to be able to help younger players, or, players within a team, to be able to, share some of the experiences that I've had that have allowed me to be the player that I am and achieve the success and longevity. I think there's a lot of things that I can do to help, and knowledge that I can pass on. So that's sort of where my head's at around what I want to do. But, sometimes life has different plans for you. So let's just wait and see.
No, that's awesome, man. I think when you do end up coaching, just make your way to Durban. I think the Sharks can do with planning and setups over there. Maybe it's a
I've
prophetic.
not, I've, Mate, I haven't been to South Africa in a long time. It's my favorite place to travel. So you might see me there soon.
Yeah, hopefully to see you soon this time. Well, it was really awesome chatting to you, and thank you for your time, man. And yeah, I know you're gonna have an awesome 2, 3 years left of your career. Keep inspiring, man. I think there's very few people that can inspire people just through their work ethic, and I really see it as one of them. I mean, yeah, I am as a South African that grew up as a boy. When you broke lines, I was like, oh shit, man. Pick up their socks. Broke our hearts a few times, having some sad days, Australia beating South Africa and those kind of things. But yeah, man, really want to honor you for your career, what you do, and how you carry yourself as a person, man. Really push on, keep on working hard, and I know you're going to be rewarded for it, man.
I appreciate you, my brother. Thank you very much, man. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Anytime, my man. You must have an awesome day.